You know that feeling, right? That pit in your stomach when something just, well, goes wrong.
Oh, yeah.
You've prepared, you've checked everything, and then bam, the new tech won't connect, or maybe your plan hits some weird snag. I had this just last week with my smart home stuff. Totally threw me off. What's your sort of go-to feeling in those what now moments?
It's absolutely that familiar dread. But honestly, for me, it's also a little bit of a strange kind of thrill sometimes.
Really? A thrill?
Yeah, I mean, it's in those moments that you really see ingenuity,
Yeah.
resilience. It kind of shines through, don't you think?
I couldn't agree more. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, mastering the art of overcoming these unexpected problems.
Okay.
We're pulling some incredible practical insights from a group who face this stuff constantly in real-time professional DJs. Equipment failures, weird environments, you name it.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how their on-the-fly troubleshooting, their preparation, their sort of battle-tested strategies,
Mm.
they can be applied way beyond just a dance floor or a club.
Yeah.
These aren't just DJ hacks. They're like universal principles for staying productive when things inevitably go sideways.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to pull out those adaptable strategies for problem solving, help equip you with the mindset to handle the hiccups,
Hmm.
and arm you with some genuinely surprising facts about preparation. We're talking emergency gear hacks, critical safety stuff for things you might not even think about.
Okay.
And these insights, they come from a really lively discussion among experienced DJs on the DJ Roundtable show, hosted by Buddy Mueller. Him and his panel shared, personal stories and lessons they learned the hard way.
They've definitely seen it all, I bet,
Hmm.
and had to figure it out under like immense pressure.
So to really get into this, let's look at a situation that kind of kicked off their whole conversation. Buddy Mueller, the host, he recently bought a new piece of gear, a video guest book.
Oh, cool idea.
Yeah, sounds neat, right? It's one of those retro phone style things, but it records video messages from guests at events. Pretty engaging.
Yeah, that's a great concept for like modern weddings or parties. Bridges the old and new, adds a unique touch.
It really does. But here's the problem. Buddy read the instructions multiple times, checked online info. The device just would not talk to any computer.
Oh, no.
And worse, the files it did record kept disappearing. So it totally wrecked his plan to show it off at a wedding show that Sunday. He just couldn't trust it.
Oof. Yeah, that brings up a really key question, one we all face sometimes. How do you decide when to keep troubleshooting, keep persisting,
Right.
and when do you just, pivot, cut your losses, return the faulty thing?
That's the dilemma Buddy put to his panel. When do you cut your ties and send something back, especially if it's from, say, an overseas company where returns might be tricky?
Right, versus trying to fix it, contact the manufacturer, maybe wonder if it's, human error on your part.
Exactly. It's a critical decision point for anyone buying new tools or starting new projects, really.
And that's where the insights from Chris, one of the DJs on the panel, becomes super valuable. He's not just a DJ, he's also an IT professional.
Ah, okay.
And he runs foam and disco golf parties, apparently.
Wild combo.
Phone parties.
Yeah.
So his core principle for any problem, especially tech stuff, is what he calls the system reset.
Mm.
He basically emphasizes that most problems at first are probably user error.
Uh-huh.
So step one is always step back, take a deep breath, and just restart the whole system from scratch.
Huh. I swear, my router knows that move well. Does that whole turn it off and on again thing really hold up universally, though?
It absolutely does. It's like the first rule of IT for a reason.
Mm.
But Chris, being a pro, takes it further.
Okay.
If those first restarts, maybe 2 or 3 tries, don't fix it, then he moves to more, let's say, aggressive resets, like a factory reset on a router maybe. Or he just immediately contacts customer service or a tech.
Right, don't waste too much time if the basics don't work.
Exactly. And what's really cool is how he applies the same tiered troubleshooting to his phone parties.
Okay, I need to hear this. A foam machine gone wrong. How does that work?
Well, he shared this vivid example. If the machine isn't making enough foam, his first move is adjusting the foam solution ratio. Makes sense.
Mhm.
Then he systematically checks the water pressure, the fan function, because that pushes air into the solution, and even external things like temperature, water hardness, humidity, even wind.
Wow, okay. So it's not just the machine itself, it's the whole environment, all the variables. That's a great reminder for any problem, really. Look beyond the immediate thing.
Precisely. And his backup philosophy, it's what you would call the contingency toolkit mindset. He carries multiple sub-pumps.
Multiple.
Yeah, spare injectable pumps, regulators, hoses, cables. And get this, He even carries a leaf blower as a temporary backup if the machine's main fan fails.
A leaf blower as a backup fan for a foam machine? That's genuinely inventive. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
What leads to that level of like out-of-the-box backup planning?
It's got to be experience, right?
Right.
Having things go wrong before and needing some immediate, maybe slightly crazy solution.
Yeah.
It's about looking at every single part and asking, okay, what if this specific thing fails? So building on Chris's methodical approach, what happens when you're actually on site, in the thick of it, and things go south? That's where Brentley comes in. He's a seasoned club and wedding DJ.
Okay, so what are his like high-pressure moves? What does he do first?
Brentley's got clear protocols. For club gigs, if the sound isn't working, first steps. Ask to see the sound booth. Check the main board, the computer's something muted. Inspect amps, cables, connections.
Standard checks.
Right. If none of that works, he basically says, look, it falls on the club to fix their system.
Okay, that highlights something important. The shifting accountability rule, maybe. Knowing when the problem isn't yours to fix alone, especially when you rely on venue equipment.
Exactly. Now, for weddings where the stakes feel even higher, he uses a smart triage system. He asks himself three things. One, can I fix this quickly? Two, do I have backup gear for this specific thing? And three, will the issue, maybe a light that's not working, even be noticed by the client or guests?
Those are really smart triage questions for any project under pressure, aren't they? What can you actually let go of versus what absolutely must be fixed right now?
Absolutely. And he has non-negotiables for sound backups. This is like the non-negotiable backup rule.
Yeah.
Always have at least one backup speaker.
Yeah.
And the ability to reroute sound, maybe use Bluetooth to a different speaker just to keep the music playing. No dead air.
That's critical. So for you, the listener, think about your own non-negotiables. What absolutely cannot fail in your work, and how can you build redundancy around that? Which brings us back to that cut your ties dilemma with new gear.
Right. Brantley has a very strong stance on faulty new products, especially from overseas companies. He told this story about a new uplight that was just dead on arrival. He absolutely demanded a brand new replacement, not a repair, threatened a PayPal dispute, showed invoices, kept pushing. He only got satisfaction after really persisting.
So sometimes problem solving involves being firm, knowing your rights as a consumer. But I wonder, is there a point where that persistence becomes like diminishing returns? Especially for a small business owner, time is money.
That's the balance, isn't it? For Brentley, the time he'd waste troubleshooting a brand new, clearly faulty product just wasn't worth it compared to the hassle of return shipping. He sees it as the supplier's issue to fix, fundamentally.
Okay.
But what really sets Brentley apart, maybe even more than the troubleshooting, is his approach to maintenance. He calls himself OCD, anal retentive about it.
Ah, okay.
This is his proactive prevention protocol. Daily checks of his cases, counting cables, tightening screws, weekly cleaning, even repainting gear if needed.
Wow, daily checks. That's serious.
It is. But this rigorous prevention stops so many problems from ever even happening. It's the whole ounce of prevention idea taken to a professional level.
That makes total sense. It's like checking your car's oil before the road trip, not waiting for the engine light.
Exactly. He even uses specific tools for this preparedness, like something called the Mort Mother of all testers for cables,
Okay.
or a Behringer cable tester. Even a special brush just for cleaning cable ends to avoid connection issues. All about preventing those avoidable problems.
Right, so it's not just fixing things when they break, but actively stopping them from breaking? Okay, let's shift gears slightly to Dwayne. He's a former teacher, now DJ. His approach to electronic issues sounds instantly familiar, kind of echoing Chris's system reset idea.
Yes, his immediate response is, turn it off and then turn it back on. Classic.
Can't beat it.
Then he checks cable connections, looks for obvious things like an accidental mute button on the mixer. He also mentioned a common issue, static with wireless systems.
Ah, wireless mics, yeah.
Sometimes, he says, you just have to kind of roll with it, maybe adjust positioning. But if possible, plugging the receiver directly into an outlet can sometimes help if it's maybe a low battery issue causing interference.
Okay, now here's where it got really interesting for me. Dwayne talked about this aha moment at a wedding. The sound just didn't carry past an archway into an adjacent room.
Oh, interesting. Like a physical barrier.
Exactly. That's a layout challenge you wouldn't necessarily anticipate from a floor plan, right? You just assume sound fills the space.
Totally. It really highlights the need to anticipate unexpected needs right there on site. Stuff that isn't an equipment failure,
Right.
but just the environment messing things up.
Right. And to solve these kinds of on-the-fly challenges, he relies on what he calls his junk drawer of connectors.
Everyone needs a junk drawer.
Pretty much. A case full of XLRs, those 3-pin audio cables, adapters, splitters, all sorts of bits and pieces to kind of jimmy a solution together. It just shows the value of having those seemingly unnecessary spares.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for you, the listener, think about your own junk drawer equivalents. What are those spares or adapters that could save your project in a pinch? And Dwayne shared some truly surprising emergency hacks, too.
Okay, tell us about those. These sound fun.
Some are quite ingenious, really. Like using headphones as a makeshift microphone.
Wait, what? Headphones as a mic?
Yeah. Apparently, the sound is kind of reversed or tinny, but it works in an absolute emergency if a mic dies. And conversely, using a microphone as makeshift headphones.
How does that even...
Not perfect sound, obviously, but apparently audible enough to hear a cue in a pinch.
That is next level resourcefulness. It's like the Boy Scout mentality in action, which Dwayne himself mentioned. Be prepared. Checklists, thinking ahead, considering every scenario.
Exactly. And he also touched on smart gear choices for preparedness. He mentioned alpha theta speakers specifically.
Okay, what's special about them?
Well, they offer battery operation, which is huge for flexibility. They have a built-in wireless system, and it's a closed-loop network. That means less chance of interference, a more dedicated connection. He also stressed using components from the same brand, like alpha theta speakers, with an alpha theta subwoofer for best performance and integration. Things are designed to work together.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about having backups, but having a system that works together seamlessly, reducing potential failure points. Okay, so we've talked a lot about maintenance as prevention, but sometimes prevention means understanding hidden dangers in the gear itself.
Right.
And few things seem to exemplify this more than those cold sparkler effects you see at events sometimes. They look cool, but apparently they're surprisingly hazardous.
This is a really critical point, and yeah, something many people, even clients asking for them, are unaware of. Cold sparklers, they produce this fine, black, sandy dust.
Okay.
It gets everywhere. Covers expensive gear like speakers and lights, which isn't great. But more importantly, that dust itself can be a fire hazard. And despite the name cold sparklers, they are not completely fireproof. They can and do cause actual fires.
Seriously? Fires?
Yes. One DJ on the show talked about them setting highly flammable pampas grass decorations ablaze at an event. And think about common stage materials, like spandex booth facades. Very risky.
Wow. Okay, so the cold part is seriously misleading. That's actually terrifying.
It absolutely can be. And this leads to needing specialized safety equipment. To properly handle a fire caused by these things, you need a specific type of extinguisher, a Class D, sometimes called Metal X.
Class D, not your standard red extinguisher.
Nope. Class D is explicitly for metal fires, which is what these sparklers essentially create. It uses a special powder to smother the fire. You absolutely cannot use water.
Why not water?
Because the metal burns so hot that water actually breaks down and the hydrogen can become fuel. Water makes it worse.
Water turns to fuel. Okay, that just underscores how crucial specific knowledge is here. And I'm guessing these Class C extinguishers aren't cheap or easy to find?
You got it. They're expensive, and they're typically single-use. So once you use it, it's done.
Wow.
And beyond the gear, there are legal and professional obligations. Pro DJs are required by law to have material safety data sheets, MSDS, for all the chemicals they use in special effects. That includes fog juice, bubble fluid, and the granules for cold sparklers.
So it's not just about safety during the event, but having the documentation ready to prove you're operating safely and legally, even if nobody asks for it.
Exactly. It's about professionalism.
Yeah.
And good DJs also include clauses in their contracts for effects like this. Things like requiring a minimum safe distance, say 6 feet from people or flammable objects, and having clients formally waive liability for minor things like tiny burns or debris from the effect.
Okay.
This level of attention to safety, the right gear, the paperwork, the contracts, it's not just about avoiding disaster. It's part of what justifies a higher price point. It separates the true professionals from people just, buying a machine online and hoping for the best. It's an educational point for you, the listener, too, helps you ask the right questions if you're hiring someone for effects.
Absolutely. So let's bring this all together. What does this all mean for us, beyond the world of DJs and foam parties and sparklers?
But if we connect the dots, the core lessons are pretty clear, I think. We've learned about the power of that basic system reset for quick tech troubleshooting. The importance of knowing when accountability shifts. That shifting accountability rule, especially with venues or suppliers. The strategic value of identifying your absolute must-haves and applying that non-negotiable backup rule.
Yeah, and the huge impact of proactive maintenance, that proactive prevention protocol. Don't just wait for breaks.
Definitely. And let's not forget the power of setting firm boundaries with suppliers when new stuff is faulty. And maybe most critically, the absolute importance of understanding and following safety protocols for any specialized service or equipment you use or offer.
It really feels like in a world just saturated with information and new tools all the time, the real skill isn't just knowing what to do when things break,
Hmm.
but understanding why things fail, how to anticipate those failures, and having the discipline to make sure you're always prepared for that unexpected twist.
Well said. And this really raises an important question for you listening right now. What seemingly small detail in your own work, or maybe even your life,
Mm.
could be a critical point of failure you haven't really thought about yet? And what steps could you maybe take today, even small ones, to build in that crucial backup, that redundancy, or just do that proactive maintenance check?
Something to really think about. Because the next time you face that what now moment, well, maybe you'll be just that little bit more ready.